Hot on the heels after the launch of the Tata Sierra, Tata Motors is back in the news with two new updates. Now these two are the petrol versions of the Harrier and the Safari, finally after years of being in the market with just a diesel. Now it is the same Hyperion petrol engine as the Sierra, but Tata Motors ensures us that it has been tweaked for these two SUVs specifically. How that has turned out, that's what you're going to find out in this video. Performance, refinement and a rough idea of the efficiency as well.
इस वीडियो को हिंदी में देखने के लिए ट्यून इन टू Autocar India.
With diesel being public enemy number one and petrol slowly becoming the top choice in SUVs, it was about time Tata gave the Harrier Safari duo a fighting chance with gasoline. Has it been worth the wait? Let's start straight from the heart. So the big talking point on the Harrier and the Safari is the engine, 1.5 litre Hyperion 4-cylinder TGDI, same engine as the Sierra like I mentioned, but it has extra power and extra torque, 170 horsepower, 280 Newton meters. Now the first thing that anyone would wonder is refinement. Big car, not that big of an engine, how does it feel? Honestly, first impressions are very positive because you don't have any vibrations in the steering or in the seats. The only downside is that you hear that engine and you hear it all the time. At idle, there is a bit of a thrum, but as soon as you switch on the AC, even at lower speed 1, the compressor kicks in and then you have that drone in the background all the time. I'm cruising right now at about 95 kph. It's in 5th and still that drone is very much there. If I accelerate, it will upshift to 6th and then things are a bit better. So it's not too bad, it's just that engine noise is always there. It's not a coarse sound by any means, it's not uncomfortably loud, but it is not completely muted either. What's worth noting is that while there is a persistent drone, Tata has put in effort to make it as refined as possible. Each injector has its own isolator, the air intake sound is also controlled using an accumulator, and the engine block and other components have also been strengthened so that the engine emits less noise. All said, it is a commendable effort. And then on to the topic of performance. Now it's easy to assume that it's a small engine in a big car, so it's not going to be that great, but honestly they've tuned it in a way in terms of gearing, fueling, that it just doesn't feel underpowered, because all that torque or most of that torque is concentrated in the lower half of the rev range. So you have a lovely bottom end and response and pickup as a result is very, very good. 160 Nm of torque is available from as low as 1000 rpm thanks to a variable geometry turbo that feeds in a good amount of air in the engine, resulting in a diesel-like character with the strong bottom end. And it's not just that initial bit, it goes all the way up to 3,500 rpm. Only after that there is a bit of a dip, but it's again not something that would immediately be noticeable. Very linear, nice smooth power delivery, so very, very impressive how they've managed this. We did manage to time it for reference and it did the 0 to 100 kph stint in just 10.5 seconds, which is not too bad for a car this size. Now while the engine is very good, what complements it further is the gearbox. 6-speed automatic torque converter, very smooth and it's just very relaxing to drive. Only downside is these paddle shifters are just not responsive enough. They have a fail-safe built in them, so you can't really downshift at your will. What you need to do basically is just slot it into D and forget about it, because it is nice and progressive. It doesn't upshift too early, it doesn't downshift too early, but if you press on the accelerator, it is pretty quick to drop a couple of gears and give you that surge that you need for quick overtakes. So on the highways, very, very impressive. And then there is a topic of fuel efficiency. Now with a big petrol SUV, you'd expect it to struggle. Honestly, there is no ARAI figure yet and we haven't been able to do a proper Autocar test standard fuel run with it. So we'll reserve our comments until we get to do that. But I have strong hopes because of the way this engine is tuned and the way the gearbox works. A lot of that torque is saturated low down. You use a lot of it around 1500, 2500 rpm, between that range. So you never really have to ring or push the engine that much. And that puts less stress and that of course uses less fuel. And the other bit of course is that it uses a more efficient Miller cycle. Without getting too nerdy, the Miller cycle ensures better thermal efficiency by allowing the air in the combustion chamber to cool down before fuel is injected.
Sounds complicated, but the end result Tata say is good for economy.
And lastly, on the topic of ride and handling, now the suspension is in typical Tata fashion. It takes bad roads very well, and because the petrol engine is slightly lighter, it is a bit more agile in the steering as well. But again, nothing that is exciting about it. It is a big SUV. You will feel the mass around the corners, and over low speed bumps like these, you do move about a fair bit. It's not supple, but it really comes into its own once the road gets very bad. On highways, on tarmac, smooth surfaces, it is nice and stable at triple digit speeds, so no issues there at all.
While we drove the Harrier for the purpose of the shoot, we also sampled the Safari, which was identical in every aspect. The red interior is quite the conversation starter, and the extra row of seats and weight have no real downside on performance.
Alright, so the engine is definitely impressive on the Harrier, but what's it like in the Safari? With a full load, which the car is right now, it seems to be absolutely unfazed. And a lot of that has to do with just how strong the bottom end is and how the gearing is. You have torque on demand at all times, and at no point does it feel underpowered. So pretty big thumbs up when it comes to performance. Going uphill also not that big of an issue, and that is the most impressive part.
Despite the change of heart, there isn't much change to the design of both these SUVs. A new paint shade dubbed Nitro Crimson is the biggest telltale sign, which is available on both the Harrier and the Safari. The wheels too are carried over without any change, with 18 inches on the Harrier and 19 inches on the Safari. No petrol badging or major differentiator seen on the outside.
Now on the inside, let me tell you what all is new. The first is of course the upholstery. Now you get a lighter shade in terms of the interior tone. It's a dual tone finish, something we've seen on the Safari. This bright layout for the seats looks nice, a bit airy as well, and opens up the cabin that much. Then of course you have the massive 14.5-inch touchscreen, QLED display, very good in terms of resolution and sharpness. Response is slick as well, and it is quite fast. You can also stream content on here using Amazon Prime and pair that with a 10-speaker JBL system. It is quite an experience. However, while the screen is fantastic, it's massive and very nice to look at, I would have liked a bigger size for the instrument cluster as well. The fonts are just too hard to read, and there's a lot of information crammed in a tight space. So this screen right here could have been better, and I think that would be the next big upgrade for Tata. They should definitely look into making that a bit different and a bit more legible. The other new bit of course is the digital IRVM. Now what it does basically is a camera that provides feed onto this glass right here. It becomes a screen that shows you exactly what's happening behind you. But if you don't want it, you can just at the touch of a button turn it into a conventional IRVM and use it as it is.
The feed on the IRVM can also be adjusted for brightness and positioning, giving you added flexibility while maneuvering in tight spaces.
Other stuff includes a panoramic sunroof, which we've seen, but this time you have ambient lighting that adds a bit of that lounge-like feeling. The center console is the same touch haptic buttons. The functions are right here. Then you have the gear shifter, which is not really nifty to use. It struggles when you're going from reverse to drive, especially if you're doing a 3-point turn. You are going to have problems with it. You've got your drive modes here, the Eco and Sport mode, and you have a wireless charger with a USB-A port and a 65-watt Type-C charger as well. So overall, the ambience, the feel of the cabin is really nice, really upmarket, especially with this bright upholstery. You've got a bit of a wood finish to the dashboard as well. Not real wood, of course, but it looks rather nice paired with the lighter upholstery. And seating is not bad apart from one thing. If you are long-legged, the squabs are going to be short for you. It's not a comfortable experience. But if you don't have long legs, if you're not over 6 feet, then it's not going to be that big of a problem. Seats, of course, are ventilated and get memory function as well. And speaking of memory, you also have memory function now for the ORVM. So if you adjust your seating, everything adjusts according to your liking. What's also interesting that if you engage reverse, the ORVMs automatically turn downwards. It's a premium feature we see on high-end cars, but it is there now on the Harrier as well and on the Safari, of course.
The cabin overall is roomy but also carries over some ergonomic niggles as before, with the center console that fouls with the driver's left knee, the narrow cavity to place your phone on the wireless charger, and the aforementioned short seat squab. It also now gets inbuilt navigation by Mapples, and features also include apps and the ability to stream movies and other content when parked, which paired with the 10-speaker JBL sound system with Dolby Atmos offers excellent media experience. The wide array of cameras also enables a 360-degree view, but it isn't the sharpest out there. However, what will help it fight dust and grime is a new front and rear camera washer. The rear seat on the Harrier is comfortable with a wide and supportive bench and plenty of room all around. Wing headrests up the comfort quotient for the two outer passengers, but as before, the center passenger has to do without a headrest altogether. Boot space at 445 liters is unchanged from the diesel, and for the Safari, there is also the red interior for those who want some pop.
So what's the verdict? Well, at the time of the drive, we don't have the pricing for these two SUVs, nor do we have the fuel efficiency numbers, real world or ARAI figures. But what I can tell you with confidence is that this 1.5 litre engine definitely works well in both of these SUVs. It is refined, it has punchy performance, good torque, and the added features have definitely made it a bit more premium now. So if you want a well-rounded SUV, if you want 7 seats, or if you just want a nice spacious cabin, the Harrier and the Safari both make for very strong options. But of course, we'd love to know your thoughts, so do let us know down in the comments. What do you think about the Harrier and the Safari with the 1.5? Do you like the new features added? Do you like the new paint shade? And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Autocar India channel and make sure to hit that bell icon as well.